Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of the Waiting Table podcast, where we have roundtable discussions about the hottest topics in weight loss. And of course, we have the coolest people from the bariatric community, and today is no exception. I'm Rob, waiting in vain. This is Murph, aka Murph's Losing It. Grab a chair, wind down from your busy day, hopefully listening to some sexy time music like we had playing, and take a seat at the table. Murph, how's it going, brother?
Good, man. How are you doing tonight?
I am always awesome, and today is going to be an awesome show. I'm excited about it.
It's good to be here, man. I am really excited about these guests. And so I just want to jump right in because we only have an hour and we've got two guests to talk to. And I've got tons of questions. I'm stoked. I'm really excited for this. So tonight I am honored to welcome to the waiting table, not only one, not two, but three triathletes. Okay, we've got Carrie and Corinne. Hello. And the waiting table's own Rob. And so I am going to try to jump on this bandwagon and do a triathlon at some point so I can be cool like you guys. I'm like super jealous, but also anxious and nervous. I want to know what it takes to be a triathlete. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, I want to go to Carrie and just get to know you for a minute. Tell me, tell us all, for those of you who don't know Carrie, her Instagram page is full of really awesome information, and she's super cool. And we've been wanting to get you on here for a while. So tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little backstory, what type of surgery you had, and your whole journey and everything. Just fill us in.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you, by the way, to you guys for having me on. I'm super honored, and I'm inspired by all of you as well. So the feeling is mutual. But yeah, I think just my name is Carrie. I'm 34 years old. I live in Calgary. Married to my wonderful husband, James, and, we have a dog, so there's just the three of us. But I started my bariatric journey a little over 3 years ago. At my heaviest, I weighed 458 pounds, and I had all sorts of issues with mobility. And I think that my breaking point was really when I suffered a pretty bad back injury. I had a lot of bulge discs, and I needed to seek chiropractic help, basically on an urgent care basis. This was like right at the beginning of the pandemic. So a lot of chiropractors at the time were actually not even seeing patients. Luckily mine was. But my wonderful husband, essentially had become my caregiver, and had to help me go to the bathroom and bathe and anyways. And so, yeah, I was in pretty bad shape, you guys. And so I was referred to the Calgary Bariatric Clinic through my family doctor. And so I had the sleeve gastrectomy surgery on January 28th of 2021. So I'm about a year and a half post-op now. And I currently weigh 238 pounds. So I've lost about 220 pounds so far. But yeah, thank you. But still very much a work in progress. The work never stops, right? But, working hard on my relationship with food still to this day. Just trying to take it one day at a time. And I'm currently right now, I'm waiting for skin removal surgery too. So I'm on the wait list for that. Listen, I'm not as focused on that right now. I think it'll come when it comes. Mm-hmm. And, my time will come, but in the meantime, I'm just trucking along. So
just one day at a time.
That's right. One day at a time.
That's good. That's super inspiring. I love that. I too had the back problems, and I know exactly where you're coming from, and it's rough, but good for you. That's really awesome. That's a great story. All right. Moving to Corinne. Same question. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story?
Yeah, I'm Corinne. I'm 44 years old and living in Ontario in Wasaga Beach. So I'm just kind of north of Barrie, if anybody knows where that's at. I am a mom of 4 amazing kids who are all teenagers and busy in their own lives in their own rights. But my story sort of centers around I was a paramedic for 20 years on the front lines, just recently, very recently retired from my career after a long battle with PTSD. And I'm transitioning into to something new. Not quite sure what that's going to be just yet, but that played a huge part in my sort of unhealthy daily life, right? So I had gastric bypass done, so the Roux-en-Y surgery on March 3rd of 2021. And at my heaviest, I was about 355 pounds, which is crazy. I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh my God, what the heck did I let myself get into? But again, probably like most of you, suffered with mobility issues, aches and pains. And I remember having to get up and sit on the side of the bed and roll my ankles and my knees before I could stand up and try to go down the stairs without falling, one stair at a time. I was on CPAP, lots of different medications, high blood pressure, sort of the regular rigmarole of stuff, right? Blood pressure, GERD, all of my regular medications for depression and anxiety and such, but it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And it kind of was a journey that I probably have taken over the last 10 years or so in discussion with my doctor, and tried every diet under the sun, every exercise program, but I never really stopped, right? I kept keeping my head down and doing lots of different, my job was active, but exercises and different races and things that I could do, but holy man, did I ever struggle with them all. I've always been active anyways, but it wasn't a pretty picture. And I knew each year I was getting, new uniforms, and they were getting bigger, clothes getting bigger. And I was just that person who was focused on everybody else, busy with my kids, busy on all their sports and activities, and not looking after myself, looking after everyone else. So finally the breaking point was I can't do this anymore, guys. I don't know. It kind of was I had my breakdown at work. I went off. I was drinking, substance abuse, eating a ton of food. That was my sort of vice right there. And went, no, it's time to definitely do something. So we put the referral in, and it all kind of fell in place, luckily. So it was a really good thing. So I had the surgery in 2021. And since then I've been hustling my butt, trying to do what I can, and reading the Bible and doing the stuff I'm supposed to do and all the things. And I've lost about 135 pounds.
Yes.
So
good job.
Awesome.
Good job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Great stories. I love that. Rob, do we have to do your story? We know you. Do we have to? No. Okay.
You know me.
We know you. We don't have to.
Main thing I'll say is just listening to, everything that I think a lot of us have come from. We had those limitations. We had a lot of those health issues. We've had those poor relationships with a lot of different things. And I think the biggest thing that excited me about this specific episode, and, with my journey as well, is how far we've come from those behaviors, from those sort of habits, to be able to prioritize what we need to do to train for a triathlon, to put ourselves first and our goals first and our health first, and really just go for it, right? And I know there's a ton of people here who have put fitness first, and that is amazing. But it was great to see the story with you guys, with Corinne and with Carrie. And Corinne actually did the try with me this past weekend. So it was amazing to be able to do this with a very fellow bariatric patient, and someone who I've been connected with for about a year now, I think. So since I've had my surgery, and I've been a bit more active on our bariatric fitness group that I think some of us are on. So it's been amazing to really connect with people, for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool to look back. Corinne, you had your surgery in 2021, so it's only been about a year for you. Carrie, you had your surgery when?
2020? Yeah, January 2021. So
2021,
maybe a year and a half or so.
And I had mine July 2021. And so, yeah, it's just crazy to look back and to see those pictures and to see, and, you know, for our family members to see us, or friends that we haven't seen in a while, and to see their faces and the dedication, you know, that it takes. And then, yeah, moving into the triathlon, like this is, oh yeah, I'm so excited. All right. So, so ladies, for you, you touched on it a little bit. I'm just curious exactly what was, when was, or what happened, Carrie, for you, that you said, like, what was your why? I always say, you know, like, what's your why? What was the thing that shifted in your brain and made you say, like, something has got to change, and like right now I'm doing it today? You know, was there a specific thing for you at a time?
I mean, I think it was a series of you know, things that occurred, to be honest. You know, the constant back pain, the mobility issues, the joint pain, you know, the depression that came along with being morbidly obese, and just not being the best version of myself, you know, for my friends, for my family, for my husband. And I think too that, you know, I said this earlier, but my husband had essentially become my caregiver. So, you know, I think that too, you know, really just made me see that I wasn't being the best, you know, wife that I could be, right, to my husband. So, yeah, I think those things. And I remember thinking, you know, and I too, similar to Corinne, had tried every diet in the book and nothing had worked for me. And so, you know, when I received this bariatric surgery, I just, you know, for me, it just was a new lease on life. And I just, you know, I was given this opportunity, and I certainly wasn't going to take it for granted. And so I just kind of ran with it.
Yeah. Good. Corinne, for you, was there a specific moment, or like a day, or a certain why, you know, that you said, you know, I got enough's enough? Did something, did anything happen, or, you know what I mean? How did that go for you?
I think a lot of it was kind of a culmination of, you know, over the years, super stressful lifestyle, shift work, you know, being that one who is in there helping people who are morbidly obese. And like, I'm in there trying to help these poor people with their ailments or whatever their crisis at the time was, thinking like, oh, I'm never gonna, you know, I'll never let myself get like this. I'm here to help these people. And then I turn around and look at myself, and I'm like mowing down like McDonald's at 3:00 in the morning after a shift, and coffee and pop, and going home to a bottle of wine, and looking in the mirror going, oh crap, this doesn't fit. Like, or, you know, I'm out of breath and I'm red in the face, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I am essentially that person. Like, I may not be 500, 600 pounds on the floor needing an ambulance and a bunch of paramedics to drag me out of my house. But, and my children are all competitive athletes. Like, here I am, the one, you know, cheering them on all over the States with, you know, baseball and volleyball and dance and everything. And I'm like, this isn't good. Like, it's going to end somewhere. My parents aren't little people, or weren't little people. And I was like, at some point I'm going to need to, you know, get my head in check and fix this. And I honestly don't really know exactly like what clicked, what light switch went on, but I do know that when I had my breakdown and I was off, I think all the pieces finally just came together, and I was like Carrie said, given that gift of bariatric surgery, and I was like, all right, this is an all or nothing. I got to make the best of every opportunity I have here, and knowing it was a long process of like going through all the appointments and stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to make the best of it, and I did. So
good. Yeah. Cool.
That's awesome. And so before we go on to the next question, first off, I'd like to say, if anyone has any questions as we go, please make sure you type it in the chat, because there is a wealth of knowledge, whether it's about triathlons or if it's about the whole bariatric experience from a female point of view, that, you know, I'm sure that Carrie and Corinne would be able to answer and share with you guys. Also, I am absolutely loving the love that our guests are getting today from a lot of the comments. Lots of people are cheering you guys on and really supporting you. So it's great to see the support for you guys. That's awesome.
I'm loving it. I'm reading back through a lot of them, and man, yeah, you guys have
I'm catching some of this too here. Yeah, this is awesome,
Yeah.
you guys.
you have some awesome
multitasking.
followers.
I have to say hi to Julia. She's been writing a couple messages there.
Yeah, that's really cool. Lots of support. So, that is actually one of my other questions. Who, just in a sentence or two, who are your big supporters? Who's pushed you through the hardest? Who do you want to give a shout out to? I think that'd be cool if you could. Corinne, you can take it first.
I'm going to say certainly my kids first and foremost. My dad, who unfortunately passed away Christmas, but he was a big supporter. And I have to say Dana Harrison is a longtime friend of mine who was a bariatric patient about 10 or 11 years ago. And she was definitely a huge, and still is a huge inspiration and wealth of knowledge for me.
Awesome. And what about you, Carrie?
Yeah, no, gosh, there's so many people to name. I wouldn't be able to name them all. I honestly just family and friends.
Yeah.
My mom in particular has been a really good support system. My best girlfriend, Julia, who's on here right now, with the love and support, but my husband too, primarily. I live in Calgary, right? And a lot of my family is actually back home in Ontario. So yeah, I really, really just have to give kudos to my husband.
Nice.
I'd probably be amiss to say if it wasn't my boyfriend Sean as well, who we actually met right at surgery, like a couple days after. Yeah, and he's a Red Seal chef. So there you go.
Oh, awesome!
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Mary had an awesome question. She asked, she said, I'm curious why each of you chose a triathlon. Did you start out biking or running, or did you jump in full force? Which is a good question, right? Because I think a lot of us have a specific strength. And so what was it that really pushed you to try a triathlon? So Carrie, go for it.
Yeah, so I still don't really know to this day, you guys. I'm not even kidding. I honestly, I was like, I had heard about triathlons. I had been doing a lot of running in my own time. I'm primarily focused right now on endurance running. But my husband is a cycler, and so I was doing longer distances on the bike with him. We would go for 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometer stints together, and then I really enjoyed running. And, this 10 years ago, I was a really good swimmer as well. So I thought, okay, well, you know what, maybe I'll just give this a shot. And, there was a women's triathlon. I did my first triathlon August 14th. So just last month. And, I did the sprint distance, and, it was all distances that I had been doing kind of in my leisure time. So I thought, well, why not? Let's do this. I mean, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. Right. So
right. That's it.
That's my thought.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Corinne?
For me, I think I remember years ago helping out at a triathlon as a paramedic. And I was like, man, this is really inspiring. Like, I wonder if I could ever do this. And I was really intrigued. But again, thought I'm way too heavy. I'm way too out of shape. Like, there's no way I'll never be able to do it. Always being active. I grew up as a skier and playing sports and mountain biking and stuff. Had never ridden a road bike in my life. And running was kind of like, I'm like a run walk kind of person. And as I progressed, I just really started trying to increase my steps and my kilometers, getting that exercise in on my own. And I literally was like, it was one day I went, nope, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to start at the try level. And I'm already doing more distance than what they called for. I bought a bike like maybe 2 weeks before my first race. I was like, this is crazy. Okay, here, tune it up. And I got on it. And I gave it a go. And I was so happy. My first one, like, the times were good. It was so fun. And the environment's just super supportive. And I leaned on all my friends that do Ironman and triathlons. And I got kind of all that information from all of them and applied it where I could. And the bug kind of bit me. And so I signed up for the other one like a month later.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. We've got another really good question here that kind of ties into my next question. I'll read his question first. So this is from Get Fit with D or she. I'm sorry, his or hers. I can't tell. I'm sorry. Did any of you struggle with swimming after weight loss? I'm 104 pounds down, and I sink like a rock now. I was an advanced swimmer before, so I'm having to relearn how to swim. Any advice for D? Either
I would say it's actually relearning a lot of it. So I actually had the experience of trying to learn when I was bigger. I had the experience of trying to learn as I had lost the weight prior to skin removal surgery. And then I had skin removal surgery in the middle of my training. So I was off for 3 months and then I came back and everything was different again. So I think it's just, with every time you try something, it's going to be different because anatomically you're different, right? And so it's going to be a matter of learning what works. And the same thing with biking. So I've gotten fitted since I've lost the weight. And from when I began, I've been fitted 3 times now, because every single time something is going to change. Your position on your bike is going to change. Your stance and how aggressive you want to be is going to change. So it's constantly tailoring everything based on what you want. And I found that, like you, D, I found that I sank a lot more. And so I had to try to find what type of stroke would work better for me, using less legs, for example, how to streamline my body so my legs stayed up as opposed to sunk down to allow me to have less drag when I'm swimming. And so everything was completely different from a month ago when I had skin, which is weird because you'd think that it'd be different, right? Or it wouldn't be different, but it totally was. So I really do think that it's just a matter of seeing what works with you. And I am not opposed to reaching out and doing a couple classes to work with a coach to see how to mechanically change up how you're doing things, because I'm a stickler. I like researching. I like understanding why things are working and why things are not. So I would definitely go to a coach to try to understand.
This is super fascinating for me. Like, I'm sitting here kind of jaw dropped, because if I didn't know that you were a serious guy about this, I would think that you're pulling my leg. I didn't think about any of this. Seriously, I didn't think, like Jason is saying, buoyancy and balance points change a lot post-op and with significant weight loss. I would have never thought that. And so taking these things into consideration when training for a triathlon, I've always been a fish in the water. I love to swim. One of my goals is to swim with great white sharks and do underwater photography. That's like my someday when I retire type of goal. But I love being in the water. And now I'm a little not worried, but like, what? Like, I haven't had the skin removal surgery or anything like that yet, but I didn't think it played that much of a role into doing a triathlon. So how could I go about, I guess, training for something like this? Like, how would I, like you were talking about, changing the way, the different strokes or the different, so is that something, how often would you train, or what would you guys do for swimming, biking and running? What would your regimen look like? How would you train for something like this? I'm taking notes. I'm asking for but
so I didn't really have I didn't really have like I don't know, probably the best solid approach to training. I'm certainly not as structured as I could have been. And these are all lessons I'm learning as I go along, right? I just did a lot of leaning on my friends that had done things like this before. And I researched a little bit about brick training. So I tried to do at least like 4 days a week where I was kind of, I don't even know if it's right or wrong, but switching up, biking and running. And then I would do like biking and swimming and running. Like, I would just put the 2 disciplines together. I wouldn't really ever do 3 of them. And I'm blessed because I live literally like 5-minute walk to the bay, which is right here, and it's perfect. It's like shallow out as far as you can go. So I would ride my bike, do my ride, park it at the beach, go down, change into my stuff, and go in the water. So I just a lot of practicing of like transitioning into things, and as much reading as I could, and just being gentle with myself, I think too. Like I'm really hard on myself, like a lot of us are. And I was like, dang, I didn't realize that doing all of these 3 disciplines together was as hard as it was, because I'm like, oh, I was like running 8 kilometers, 2.5 is a breeze. No, not after you swam, got off a 10K bike ride, and then you have jello legs. So
Yep.
it was a
Very
lot of
real thing.
Yeah, it was a real learning curve. And I kind of went into the first one blind, which I said to you, Rob, the day of our race, standing at the water, I'm like, I don't know if doing this and not knowing what to expect was a better idea, or doing it now and knowing what's to come. So
Yeah.
How about you, Carrie? Any advice that
Yeah.
you would give?
So similar to Corinne, I did a lot of brick workouts as well going into the triathlon. So I would do strength training 3 times a week. And then like every second day, I would incorporate a brick workout where I was doing, a run followed by a bike ride. And then, the following workout, I would do a swim, followed by a bike ride, or whatever the case may be. And I kind of did that for a little over 3 weeks leading into my triathlon. The other thing as well is that I did a lot of dry runs. So I was so nervous, you guys. They tell you to relax and have fun, and you're like, and it's just so much easier said than done, right? So I actually went and I ran the course ahead of time, and I also did the bike portion too ahead of time, because I was like, I am not going to go into this blinded on the day of. So yeah.
What distances are we talking about here? What were the distances for yours?
Yeah, so I did the sprint distances. So I swam, it was 750 meter swim, which was 30 lengths of the pool. We swam in a pool. And then you got out and you ran about 300 meters to your transition area. You got on the bike, you did 20 kilometers on the bike, and then came back into your transition.
Miles.
Thank you, Rob.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
I
there
got
you
you,
go,
man. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, and then once you were done your bike portion, then you ran 5 kilometers.
Nice.
So
3 miles.
Okay.
3.1.
3.1
so I'm actually,
miles.
3.1, yeah. So I'm actually I am very neurotic and very specific about my training. All the guys who train with me and we do big rides, like we've done 200-kilometer rides in a day. We do 100, 150 regularly. And before every ride, the night before, I will run through the whole route in my head. So I know everything about it. And, even a lot of people are telling me, oh, you're overthinking things. You overthink things. Like, ask Corinne, the day of right before we're in the water, I'm sitting here jumping up and down, cheering, and I am fully relaxed because I know that I've put the work in, right? So
you are. Yeah.
I know what the elevation of every run, every bike is. I know what the terrain is, whether I did a dry run or if I did it, I mapped it out. I've trained in very specific conditions that are exactly like that. So I know what my energy levels are going to be like. I know when I can push harder. I know, just like if I'm doing a big ride and there's a really big hill, I know what points on my ride or on that hill I can push. I know what points to let up because I know how to manage my energy. And I think it's the same thing. The part that I did not prepare for, and I was telling Corinne this, I'm very Canadian in that I am very polite. And so we started the triathlon, and out of the gate, I'm first, me and this guy beside me.
Yep.
And so we're going, and as we start swimming, I'm kicking someone behind me because I can't tell that they're behind me. So the Canadian in me stops swimming and says, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I did that so many times, and I would say halfway through the swim, I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, I should just go. It's not like I'm doing it on purpose, but because of that, regardless of how much open water training I did, that threw me off because mentally I wasn't prepared for that. And so my breathing was totally different when I did my swim. My strokes were different. My length of my strokes were different. Everything was absolutely different. And I just knew when I was doing my ride, because initially my goal was, hey, I just want to finish. After I started getting a lot more confident, it was like, no. And that's these girls, because they were in the group that I'm in. I was like, no, I have a time that I want to beat, right?
Yeah, and you blew it
I was
away.
always like, I need to hit this time. I need to push based on what I know I'm capable of. So like when we did the bike, I was like, this is my strong point. I'm going to push really, really hard, because I sort of had that goal. And so, there's so many different approaches to the training, but I would just say, for me, be as prepared as possible, because unless you are an amazing athlete in all these disciplines, there are always things that are going to happen that are going to throw you off your game. Like someone put in the transition in T1, which is the transition name where you put your bike and lay everything out. I was there really early to have all my stuff set, but someone came, I guess, near the end, put his bike on top of my stuff, and I had my so the way I had mine set up is I run barefoot and I jump on my bike, and I have my shoes already clipped in, and they're rubber banded, so they're exactly where I want it to be. So whoever moved my bike must have dropped my bike or did something, because both my rubber bands broke. So as I was doing it, my shoe fell off as I started my ride. But again, for me, like, that's the whole thing about being prepared and running through everything, is just like, things are going to happen. How do you deal with it? And I didn't stress about it, because I was just like, no, I know I can do this. I'm fine.
So be prepared and don't apologize for kicking people.
That's what I'm going to do next time.
I'm sorry.
All right. I'm writing this down. I'm telling you.
Don't apologize for kicking. I got punched like 7 times, though. I did. And
you were saying that
wrong.
Like,
that's so. Yeah, it happens, and it's just like, at first I'm just like, why are you punching me? But they don't know. Like, it's not like we're running and I can, like, or when I was biking, it was constantly on your left, on your left, on your left, because I'm going around people.
Just got to put those blinders on.
Exactly. When you're swimming, you don't do that. Right?
Yeah.
We actually have 2 amazing questions. So let's jump to Anne's first. She had asked about nutrition, and she had asked,
did anyone get nutritional direction?
Yeah. From your clinic on anyone how to properly feel.
Go ahead.
Jinx,
go ahead.
You owe me a triathlon.
Yeah, right.
Go for it.
Either of you ladies.
Yeah, great question, and my answer is no. Did not get a lot of nutritional direction from the clinic to properly fuel during my run. And honestly, it's funny, because I actually was just talking to Anne about this the other day. I think that the truth about endurance training is that you're going to have to make tweaks along the way. And just with regards to how you fuel kind of pre, during, and post. And so nowadays I really force myself to eat and drink at different kilometer markers. Whereas when I first started training, I made the mistake of, running 14 kilometers and not properly fueling. And you make that mistake once, you likely won't make it again, because you're going to feel like a lot of crap. So, so I think that your run or ride, right? Correct. Exactly. And so, I really make sure now that I'm carrying, things that are going to help me fuel during my runs. So that's my electrolytes, that's my energy gummies, or, my energy chews, as I like to call them. And I find it's just, especially important on anything longer than 45 minutes to an hour, just to make sure that you're hydrating, and that you're getting some of those, electrolytes back into your system for sure. But I didn't get a lot of advice. I actually had to reach out to quite a few people that were doing the longer distances, and being one of them. And just a couple other friends, that I've had to kind of pick their brains. And I like to educate myself a lot too. So I've read a lot. I listen to podcasts. I ask a lot of questions, just to people who have done this in the past, right? And I kind of learn through their experiences as well. So,
yeah.
So how long does this typically last? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What's a good time on the triathlons that you guys do? And then, like, how often would you stop to eat, and how much time are you spending? What are you eating exactly? And I've got so many questions. I'm sorry. But
That's good. These are good questions. I like them.
how does this work?
I like when
Well,
you
I don't
ask,
know.
when do you stop to eat? And I saw everyone smile.
Yeah.
So you don't stop.
The question should be
No.
more like, how do you learn to balance on your bike, to unzip that little pouch, to take out the gummies that you've already opened the packet, or put the tape on the top of the gel so when you tear it off, you can still eat it while you're biking and reach down and grab your water bottle and not fall.
100%.
While avoiding the speed bumps on our
Yes.
route.
Yeah. Oh my
Right?
gosh. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was certainly, that's going to take some practice for sure. Yeah. Or drink. Oh, here's another one. Drink when the lovely volunteers hand you a water or a Gatorade at the aid station, and you're like, thank you, because it's 35 degrees out and you're sweating buckets, and you guzzle it and realize that you just choked and you're trying to run still. Like there's a lot of
especially as a bariatric patient, because for some people chugging isn't possible, right? So I know it hurts. Like I had to relearn how to do that, and that was a big part of my nutrition. So for me, when we do these big rides, I will announce every 15 minutes that you need to be a quarter down your drink, because every hour that we ride, we need to be done 1 bottle. That's our rule, because I don't want anyone to be dehydrated and I don't want to stop to bring anyone home. So, that's sort of the thing, right? And it's easy for us to forget. And I know that I made the mistake on our run, or on our try, because I was dehydrated at the end of the run because it was so hot. And because our ride is so short, right? Like I did my ride, I think in 16 minutes, I didn't finish as much as I wanted to. So I knew that right away I had a headache when I got to a certain point on my run. So, I made that mistake.
I'm so new to all of this, right? So like you guys, I leaned on other people, like my friends that have done Ironman or that are just other athletes. I work with a lot of people that are amazing athletes, and they really said things like, as bariatric patients and people that exercise a lot, we drink a lot of water anyways. You hydrate a lot. Like I'm like a 2 to 3 liter a day kind of person, but they said leading up to that race, make sure you're hydrating your body even more.
Yeah.
The days coming up to it, so that your body's like ready for everything. And then all of those gummies and gels and chews and things like that. With bariatric stuff, you got to look at your sugars and your fats, and you don't want to end up running and having dumping syndrome halfway through the race. Like, there's a lot of,
like
I had to
I
talk
was
to a lot of
very
friends.
specific about what I had used, because I had used a lot of different things. And I always tell people, this specific rule, and this is whether you've had bariatric surgery or not. Whatever you're taking in now is not for energy right now. It's for the next hour, right? So if you take that into consideration, your first, like for me, like my electrolyte drink or energy drink or whatever the case might be, is always the first hour before my ride, right? Because I want it to kick in then. And so it's important to constantly be having that hydration plus the carbohydrates plus the electrolytes, because it's going to get you through the next hour and the next hour and the next hour, right? Depending on what you're doing. And so you're right, like sugar is a big thing. So like choosing a specific hydration mix, like for me, I was like, everything is going to be in my liquid form. I'm not going to be doing gels or anything, because I would heavily rely on gels. So I use a specific formula that I know is good for me. And I will get, while I'm training, every drink is 60 grams of sugar or of carbs over that hour. So I know very specifically what I'm getting, and I've sort of played with it to see what I can handle and what I can't. Because I have a friend who started right away, and she was like, oh, I'm going to take the 2 scoops, 60 grams. And she couldn't finish the ride because she had a really, really bad stomach ache. It was like on the verge of like going to the hospital. You need to, it's a lot of like learning, right? And playing around.
It's a lot of preparation. Like don't try new things on the day of the race.
I was just going to say that. That's probably my biggest piece of advice, honestly, is, and they even tell you that too, like pre-triathlon. They say, don't try something new the day before. Don't try something new the morning of, because you certainly don't want to get into this event and then, run into digestive issues, right? Where you're having to run to the bathroom and And then like Corinne alluded to, you know, having dumping syndromes, right? So stick to something that you know. You know, for me, it's, I mean, the morning of, I remember I fueled, I had a banana, I had a couple figs, and I had a piece of toast with peanut butter. And these were things that I knew I could easily digest. You know, to Rob's point, I had, you know, tested some pre-workouts, you know, during my training phases as well. So things that I knew, you know, agreed with my body, and I wasn't introducing anything new, right, going into this. So.
And I think that's the same for all your prep too, right? Because I know I had a lot of people messaging me before, like 3 days before, and they're like, hey, you may want to do this, you may want to do this, you may want to do this. I'm like, regardless, I need to keep the blinders up and say, I've put this much training in with these parameters, don't steer from it, right? Yeah. Because like I had made the decision that I'm not going to swim with a wetsuit because I was confident in my ability to swim at that time now. So for me to put on a wetsuit, that means that I needed to reacclimate myself to the stiffness in the shoulder. How's the fit? How is my transition with getting it off? How's my focus with all that, right? So all these different factors matter, and exactly what you said with nutrition, like stick to what your plan is, stick to what you know, because it's easy to stray, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Julie asked an awesome question. She asked, is there anything you would have done differently looking back on your journey? And we're going to let Carrie answer this first, since Julia, I think, is your supporter and friend.
She is. Is there anything you would have done differently looking back on your journey? My overall journey? I don't know, you guys, that I would have done a whole lot differently. You know, I think that what works for one person may not work for somebody else. And I think that that's what makes everybody's journey different. And, you know, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think it's certainly not linear. There's a lot of peaks and valleys along the way. And, you know, and I mean, still to this day, you know, I continue to work on things like my relationship with food. And so it's a continuous work in progress. You know, I do a lot of these events too, because it's something to constantly look forward to. But yeah, I don't know that I would do a lot differently. I mean, I think one of the benefits too for me throughout my journey was that I kind of started it in the middle of the pandemic. So I was at home, and I had my home gym, and I was able to kind of just, you know, really focus, you know, on myself. So that was like definitely an added benefit for me. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
How about you, Corinne?
Very good. I don't think I would have done a whole lot differently. I mean, I don't know that I'm as neurotic as you are, Rob, about like knowing every fine detail about everything, because that works for you and that's amazing and I love it, because then I can ask questions of people like you. I'm kind of more of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. But that being said, I do like to know the reasoning behind things, right? So I refer to the Bible as our bariatric Bible, right? And I read it religiously. I still keep it on my counter. It's in my binder. I have all my pages tabbed. If I forget something and need to go back, it's on my phone. I don't look at it as often as I should, but it's there if I were out and needed an example of something. But honestly, like the biggest piece of advice, kind of like Carrie said, everybody's journey is different, and just trust in the process. If you've put the work in and you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're not, pulling the wool over your eyes and cheating yourself, like there's a reason you get to this point and you've made that choice for that switch finally, and you're not helping yourself if you're cheating yourself, right? So just trust in the process and do it.
The one thing I would say I'd do differently is I wouldn't stop to apologize while I was swimming. If I kick someone,
because I'm gonna kick you next time if I ever catch you.
If you accidentally kick someone, don't stop to apologize and let them pass. No, that's what I did so many times.
Yeah, too funny.
Yeah,
horrible.
Yeah. No, and you know what? Just to add to what Corinne said, I think that it's always a lot easier, you guys, to stay in shape than to have to get back into shape, So I say that a lot, right? And that's where the consistency comes in. So, if you're entering some of these events, right? If you're continuously staying in shape and you're just committed, right? It's a lot easier, right? Than to, everybody's got to start somewhere, but I'm just saying, as you're continuously progressing, right? It's always easier, to stay in shape.
It's hard getting over that, it's hard getting to that certain point. And then once you get over that hump, your body craves I talk like I'm this elite athlete, but your body craves the work.
No, but you're right,
craves the
Corinne.
running. Yeah. And once you're doing it, it's like, oh, I haven't gone out for a run today, or I haven't gone out for a walk today, or gotten on my bike or whatever. And then you're hurting a few days later. It's even harder. So
yeah.
I'm just loving it. Yeah, I'm just, man, I have such an appreciation for you guys, even more so now, having learned all of these little nuances of the triathlon. Yet I'm still intrigued and interested, and I think I want to try one. So when should I start taking training seriously? How far in advance? A month before a triathlon, 2 months, 3 months, or, just start now and just always be in triathlon form? Is that the idea? Or, what do I do?
Let me answer your question with a question, so we have an idea. Are you saying that you're going to join the triathlon that we're going to be doing together? So I know Corinne and I have talked about it. I've mentioned it. I think Anne had mentioned it. And there are some people in our bariatric group that we have talked about. I know Carrie said she would travel for it. Murph, you're out of town. If we do one, we'll support you. I'll do whatever distance.
He's not that far out of town.
We will come to you.
Yeah. We will.
I appreciate that.
Road trip.
I appreciate the support. The only thing I've ever done. Yeah, right. I'm going to choose my words wisely. Anything you say at the waiting table can and will be held or used
against you. Exactly.
About 8 or 9 years ago, I did a warrior dash, and it was just a 5K, obstacle courses and mud, and it was a lot of fun. I didn't train for it. I lost 80 pounds and was like, I'm doing it. So the dedication involved, everything from your wetsuit, your skin removal, the way you swim changes. There's just so much. I'd like to say I want time to think about it. However, this is definitely something that I'm interested in doing, and I wanted. And I like to jump in with both feet. So. I'll be praying about it, but I'm
I'll be praying about it.
I'm swinging that way.
That didn't sound like, yes, I'm doing it. That's nice.
Yeah.
But the short answer, though, and the short answer, Murph, too, is that you just have to start. Yeah. Honestly, that's all it is, friend. It's just, start swimming. And start running or start biking and look at increasing, the time and the amount of kilometers or whatever over time, right? It's just a continuous work in progress.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if if you guys mentioned it, I think I asked earlier, but I don't know if I got the answer. How long amount of time, are you spending doing each leg of the three? I know it varies for everybody, but typically.
Yeah, it's different for distances.
What's a good run? What's a good bike? What's a good swim?
I'll say that I think it's, listen, I'm competitive. So I think when I entered my triathlon, I had a goal in mind. I wanted to finish the event in under 2 hours. And I was able to finish it in 1 hour and 43 minutes. I think, you're going to learn as you train, right? The different timings. In training, I was swimming 30 lengths in about, I think, 20 minutes. And then on the day of my triathlon, I swam them in 17 minutes. So I think that, the day of the endurance kind of kicks in, right? And it kind of just gives you that little adrenaline push. But I don't know Murph, that I can really say that there's a specific time that you need to hit, right? It's very much so individual,
Yeah.
you know, because these events too, it's really you versus you.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, I mean, I remember I was talking to Rob about this actually pre-podcast, but you know, it's and it seems ridiculous now that I look back, but I was so concerned about my loose skin the day of my triathlon. Going into it, I did not wear a wetsuit, by the way. I only had like a one-piece Nike swimsuit. And so getting out of the pool, I'm soaked, right? And I am having to run barefoot right from the pool to my transition area. And, you know, and I'm all I can think about is my loose skin, you know, bouncing up and down. And looking back on it now, you guys, I mean, absolutely nobody was focused on that. Everybody is so focused on running their own race. And, you know, Corinne mentioned this earlier, you know, these events are so positive. There's so much camaraderie. You know, it's just really such a good environment to be in. But yeah, looking back on it now, I thought, oh gosh, why was I even focused on that? So silly, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys set goals like that as well? Like I'm going to finish in 2 hours or did you guys have that?
Well, Rob, I think, was meticulous. We know that much.
Well, we know that. You guys are kind of
Rob crushed it.
meticulous.
I like, again, went in like both feet in, just the, you know, right, like no real goal. My only goal was just to finish it for myself, like just to prove to myself that I could focus on me. I could push past that, like, I can't do it anymore. Have to give up kind of vein. And I said, if I finish it, awesome. I don't care what time it is. And I did the tri version. So it's like the baby version of the triathlon. And I finished my first one in 1 hour and 1, and the second one was 1 hour and 10. But things were different, right? Terrain was different, hills, headwinds, waves, different swim. And all were fine, and I'm okay with it. I know where to go from that. So
nice. So we are pretty much. I wish we could do it, and you know what? We will probably do a second. I would love to do a roundtable with all you guys again.
Please.
This was amazing, but I do not want anyone to get cut off. So first off, Corinne, we know we can find you guys. Everyone who's following, you could follow Corinne at Paramedic Chick 78. Carrie, you can follow at Carrie Perrier Hawkins _ in between each. Again, thank you so much, guys. Like, this was a great session. It was a great episode. I think people really, really got a lot from it. I know I have. And once again, like, motivation wise, I absolutely loved going through my process with you guys and seeing how you guys are doing. It really motivated me. So thank you very much, guys. And everyone else for tuning in today, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today on the Waiting Table Podcast, where we're serving the weight loss community
1 pound at a time.
Yes.
Awesome.
See you next week, guys. Thank you so much.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
So much.
Bye.
Love y'all. God bless.